Hey guys, it's Psychosis here, and today I've got another book review for you guys. And today I'll be reviewing the fantasy sci-fi kind of esque book, A World Called Camelot by Arthur H. Landis. And before I had read this book or even got the book, I had no idea this book even existed. I randomly got on a whim on an online book auction only because of Giant Zayhander. I loved it because where is it? Yeah, I am a fan. Big sword. I like I like big swords. So I was like, ooh, cool. So I got this book. Didn't think much of it. I saw Camelot, so I was like, ooh, fantasy. Yeah, that's kind of what this is. But it's a fantasy book with like a huge twist and stuff. This book's scope is like honestly way bigger than I expected. But yeah, anyways, this is my review of it. And yeah, so this book was written in the 60s. It's about 220 pages long. And it's a doll book, so it's kind of cool, I guess. And yeah, the plot of this book is there's this group from Earth. They're just called the Foundation, and they try to keep balance in the galaxy, I guess you could say. And so to do that, they send these people called adjusters to like try to affect indirectly affect the events of a world to like try to get it better or whatever. And so they send in this adjuster named Kyrie Fern. Yeah, it says Kyrie Fern. I forget his actual name all the time. The whole time I was reading this book, I kept forgetting his name. But they send an adjuster named Kyrie Fern to this planet, and the planet is called Fregus. But it's dubbed Camelot because it's this weird world that's like where magic actually works, and there's like actual mythical creatures and stuff. And they don't know how the magic works either. It just magically works, and it's just all word based. It's actually kind of cool. Like it doesn't go depth explaining the magic, but it's honestly pretty cool. And there's a lot of like I said, fantasy creatures. Instead of riding horses, the people ride these like dog things called dawdles that have like six limbs. Yeah, there's a lot of like animals with like six limbs in this book. I don't know why, but I guess he was just trying to offer, he was trying to make it all magical and stuff. And so yeah, he comes to this world to like try to affect it, and he's supposed to just indirectly affect it. But then to not reveal his identity, he claims that he's Harl Lenti, the Colin, who's like the mythical person that comes to save him in times of peril. And there is peril in the world. That's why he's here, is because in the southern continent, because the world is like two continents. There's the north where the standard fantasy kingdoms are, just the good guys basically, and then there's the southern lands in the land of what's known as Am, and there's like evil magic around and stuff. And so he comes there and he claims that he's Harl Lenti, the Colin, the mythical person, and so they take him in. And then he's not supposed to be like I said, not direct, supposed to be directly affecting it, but he gets caught up in everything and the fervor of it all, and actually comes so connected to it all. And then he falls for the princess for like the beginning of the book. So there's also that. It's really awkward, some of it. And he's like obsessed with like the princess who's right here, Princess Muri Nygard or whatever. He like falls hard in love with her and stuff. It's really goofy. But yeah, he gets associated, and then because of all his fancy gadgets and stuff, he's naturally good at sword fighting. So the people automatically assume he's already mythical to begin with. Yeah, but then it starts off and he thinks he has this bigger purpose, and then he finds out as the book goes along that his purpose is even less than he realized, and there's way more going on. And he finds out what the evils caused by it that's affecting the kingdoms of the world of Camelot, Fregus, whatever you want to call it. And then he finds out the deeper secret of the Pugboos, which there's one, Hooli, his name is, but yeah, they're like these flying rodent things but they can like talk telepathically and just seem way more advanced than they are, which they actually are. Kind of a spoiler if you ever come across this book. I'm trying not to spoil it, but it's pretty cool. But yeah. So first, yeah, so the setting and stuff and all that is pretty cool, this book. So you got like knights, you got the sigils and signs on armor and stuff, fantasy battles, the holy iron arts. They've even got a dragon arc in here, dragon like creatures called yuns. Yuns, yuns. And they're just these huge dragon things. They seem more like leather blocka according to how he describes them. But yeah. But they're just absolutely these massive, smelly dragon things. They're they're pretty cool. And so yeah, so the whole book is him getting directly affected by it, and the people in the spaceship above the planet get mad at him and stuff because he gets too involved. But that's basically the gist of this book. There's, like I said, there's way more, but I don't want to spoil this book. But yeah, of course, it's kind of flawed, honestly. It got more flawed as it went on, honestly. It feels like it drags on in places. And like I said, the arc of him loving the princess, it's really awkward of him describing it all. Because that's the thing too, the narration is also goofy. This whole book is narrated in the first person's perspective of Kyrie Fern, Harlenti, call him whatever you want to call him. It's from his perspective in first person, and with like the way they talk, because everyone talks of like the old adage of the past, try to keep it as fantasy as possible. It's like really like a lot to follow at times. There were some parts I had to read it a few times to like understand what he was saying, just the way he was describing the words, because they say it all goofy instead of just saying something clear as day. In terms, in like any other normal modern book, he doesn't. And yeah, so it just comes off as like kind of goofy. And yeah, he's like, he claims he's the chosen one, so he has to seem all epic and stuff. But he still gets like hurt, and he almost dies at the end of the book in like the final battle. Yeah, there's a final battle, and it's actually really great. It encompasses like the last it encompasses like the last 30-ish pages of the book. That, yeah. Other than that, I can't really think of any major flaws. Just like I said, him loving the princess is really goofy. I don't want to spoil that, but that's like the most awful part of the book, and that's the way it's narrated and the way everyone talks. But Camelot, like I said, is a cool world, and yeah, it's just really cool. And this is the first time I've read a book like this where you've got like fantasy mixed juxtaposed with like sci-fi. I'm like, oh yeah, we come to help this world, this infant world, and there's way more going on than even we realize. Because like the main villain of the book turns out to not even be of the galaxy itself, but something else, and it's just called the Colleen, and they don't go much in depth with it. All they really know is it's bad. There's maybe a spoiler, but I hope not. But yeah, so that's kind of the gist of A World Called Camelot. And also when I read this book, I also discovered that this is actually a series. I thought this was just an isolated book, but no, there's an entire series, an entire trilogy of books of these. I guess you call it a Camelot trilogy or whatever. I don't even know what to call it. But yeah. And so yeah, this is my first time reading this author, and the first book he ever wrote, actually. And honestly, it's a pretty good book for the most part, but like I said, it is flawed. And honestly, there's tons of other books I would rather pick over this book if I were to ever reread it again. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of World Called Camelot. And yeah, I think as a final rating, I'll give this book a 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. It's pretty good, but it could have been even better to like a 9 out of 10. I mean, there were some parts that were 9 out of 10 in this book, like really great parts, but just the fact of the goofiness of it and just the way they talk, and it drags on. And it's the way the narrators, it's entirely in first person from his point of view the entire time. I don't know. I didn't like it as much as like a standard third person point of view or just how most other books do it. Maybe I'm kind of basic or haven't read enough fantasy, but I just didn't jive with it as much as I thought I would. But honestly, though, I will admit this book is honestly a little not as good as I thought it would be, but also way better. Because I thought it was going to be straight up fantasy, but the sci fi elements do help it make it seem more unique, I guess. But yeah, 7.5 to an 8 out of 10. Pretty good book. I mean, if you want to read it, I'd recommend it if you could find this. It's a pretty old book, like I said. This book is from the 60s. And I only knew about this because I bought it on a whim from an online book auction on a dime, only because of this Zayhander. But on the cover, I was like, ooh. Yeah. The sword has less purpose in the book than it seems. He just gets a two-handed sword from a guy, and then he has the sword like the whole book. But yeah, that's kind of my review of this book. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my review. If you want to read it, I would recommend, like I said, it's not the greatest book, nor is it the worst. If you could find it, I imagine there's digital versions, Kindle versions of it out there. But yeah. But if I ever do find the other two books, I will probably actually have interest enough to read what those are. And yeah, if there's, anyways, that's all I had for you today, guys. If there's anything you'd want me to read, I might read it, and I'll just try to read whatever I want to read next and try to review that. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this review, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.